I heard screaming next door at my hotel in Japan. I wish I hadn't. The air hung thick and heavy with the scent of brine and something vaguely floral as the taxi pulled up to the Ryokan. Yamamoto-ya, the driver grunted, pointing with a calloused finger. I paid him, the yen feeling flimsy in my sweaty palm, and hauled my bag out. The place was exactly what I'd pictured, low-slung, with dark wood and paper screens. Lanterns cast a warm glow over the entrance. Perfect. I was determined to soak up every ounce of Japanese culture I could cram into 2 weeks. The first day was bliss. I wandered through the small town, visited the local shrine perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean, and sampled green tea at a small tea house where a woman named Eiko patiently helped me navigate the menu. The ocean was a deep sapphire, the air clean, and the people, despite the language barrier, were welcoming. That night, I fell asleep easily, the sound of the waves a soothing lullaby. The second night was different. It was 2:17 a.m. I know this because I stared wide-eyed and paralyzed at the digital clock on my phone as the screaming tore through the thin walls. It was female, raw, primal, guttural, a scream of pure, unadulterated terror, followed by a choked sob and then silence. My heart hammered against my ribs. I fumbled for the phone and called the front desk. A sleepy voice answered in heavily accented English. "Hello, I just heard screaming from next door, I think. Is everything okay?" There was a pause, screaming. "I am very sorry, sir, perhaps a bad dream. I will look into it immediately. Please try to relax." He hung up. I lay there rigid, listening. Nothing, just the relentless crash of waves. After what felt like hours, I managed to drift back to sleep, the screams replaying in my head like a broken record. The next morning, I went to the front desk. The manager, a stern-faced man with slicked back hair, greeted me with a polite but distant bow. "About last night," I began, "the screaming. Did you find out what happened?" He frowned slightly. "Screaming, sir. I am not aware of any disturbance. Perhaps you were mistaken." "No, I wasn't mistaken. It was loud. Someone was clearly in distress. Was there a guest in the room next to mine, room 203? He shuffled through some papers. "Room 203 is currently unoccupied, sir. It is being prepared for a long-term guest arriving next week." My blood ran cold. "That's impossible. I heard screaming coming from that room." He gave me a tight smile. "I assure you, sir, there is no one in room 203. Perhaps you are suffering from jet lag. Please enjoy your stay." He bowed again, dismissing me. I walked away, feeling a knot tightening in my stomach. He was lying, I knew it. I went to the tea house, hoping Eiko could offer some perspective. She listened patiently as I recounted the events of the night before. "Screaming," she said, her brow furrowed. "That is unusual. This is a very peaceful place." The manager acted like I was crazy, said the room was empty. Eiko hesitated, then said, "Yamamoto-ya has been here for many years. There are stories, old stories. "What kind of stories?" She looked around nervously, lowering her voice. "Stories about the land, before the hotel was built. Some say it was a place of sacrifice long ago." I felt a shiver crawl down my spine. "Sacrifice, human sacrifice," she shrugged. "Legends, nothing more," but her eyes betrayed her unease. That afternoon I started snooping. The hotel was laid out in a simple rectangle with rooms on either side of a central corridor. I found a maintenance closet at the end of the hall. Inside, I discovered a service door that seemed to lead behind the guest rooms. Heart pounding, I slipped inside. The air was stale and dusty. It was dark, lit only by the faint glow seeping in from the hallway. The narrow corridor stretched before me, a row of identical doors on either side. I crept forward, my footsteps muffled by the thick carpeting. When I reached the wall adjacent to my room, 202, and the supposedly empty room, 203, I noticed something small, almost imperceptible, a tiny peephole drilled into the wall. My breath hitched. I pressed my eye to the hole. Darkness. Absolute, impenetrable darkness. I could see nothing. The room was empty, but empty or not, the hole was there. Someone had deliberately created it, to watch. That night, the strange occurrences started. A small porcelain doll I'd bought as a souvenir seemed to move from the bedside table to the floor. I heard faint whispers coming from the hallway, too low to understand. Shadows flickered in the periphery of my vision. I was losing it. I knew it. The jet lag, the stress, the isolation, it was all getting to me. Desperate, I tried contacting the local police. My Japanese was terrible, and their English was even worse. After several frustrating attempts, I managed to convince an officer, Detective Ito, to visit the hotel. Ito was a middle-aged man with a perpetually skeptical expression. He listened to my story with thinly veiled impatience, his eyes constantly darting around the room. "Screaming, you say?" he asked, his voice flat. "Yes, blood-curdling screaming. And the hotel manager is lying. He said the room next to mine is empty, but I know someone was in there." Ito interviewed the hotel staff. They all denied hearing any screaming or seeing anything unusual. The manager repeated his story about room 203 being unoccupied. After an hour, Ito turned to me, his face impassive. "Mr. Ethan, I have found no evidence to support your claims. The hotel staff are cooperative and deny any knowledge of this incident. I believe you may be experiencing some disorientation. Perhaps you should get some rest." He handed me his card and left. I was on my own. Eiko, seeing my despair, offered a small piece of advice. "Go to the shrine," she said. "Talk to the old man who lives there. He knows things, old things." The next morning, I climbed the steep path to the shrine. The old man was sitting on a stone bench, gazing out at the ocean. His face was a roadmap of wrinkles, his eyes as ancient as the sea. I told him my story, stumbling over the words, my voice trembling. He listened in silence, his gaze never wavering. When I finished, he spoke, his voice a low rasp. "The land remembers," he said. "The Yamamoto-ya sits on a place of pain. A gateway to what?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "To the other side, where the lost souls wander. They cry out, but only those who are sensitive can hear them." "What can I do?" He looked at me, his eyes piercing. "The answer lies beneath, where the earth is thirsty." He wouldn't elaborate. I left the shrine feeling more confused and frightened than ever. Where the earth is thirsty. What did that even mean? I went back to Eiko. I explained what the old man had said. She frowned, thinking. "Thirsty earth, the only thing I can think of is the well. In the old stories, there's a well beneath the Yamamoto-ya. It was sealed up a long time ago. A well, beneath the hotel. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the building, every rustle of leaves outside my window sent shivers down my spine. I had to find the well. I spent hours searching, meticulously examining every inch of the hotel. Finally, in the back of the kitchen, behind a stack of discarded rice sacks, I found a narrow stone staircase leading down into the darkness. My heart hammered against my ribs. I grabbed a flashlight from the front desk. The night clerk barely glanced at me and descended into the abyss. The air grew colder and damper with each step. The staircase opened into a small, circular chamber. The walls were lined with strange symbols, crudely carved into the stone. The air was thick with the smell of mildew and something else, something acrid and metallic. And there it was, the well. It was a dark, gaping hole in the center of the chamber, covered by a heavy stone lid. The lid was cracked and stained, the stone discolored by something dark and viscous. I approached cautiously, my flashlight beam dancing nervously over the surface. The symbols on the walls seemed to writhe in the shadows. I had to see what was inside. I knelt down and began to pry at the stone lid. It was incredibly heavy and my hands were shaking. After what felt like an eternity, I managed to shift it enough to create a small opening. A wave of foul air rushed out, carrying with it the stench of decay and then something else. Something sickeningly sweet, like rotting flowers mixed with blood. I shone my flashlight into the darkness. At first, I saw nothing, just blackness. But then, as my eyes adjusted, shapes began to emerge from the gloom. I saw things, distorted, grotesque things, twisted limbs, skeletal faces, eyes that glowed with an unholy light. They were piled on top of each other, a writhing mass of decay and despair. And then I heard it, a faint, echoing scream. The same scream I had heard the night before. Only this time it was multiplied 1,000-fold, a chorus of agony rising from the depths of the well. I recoiled in horror, stumbling backward. The flashlight slipped from my grasp and clattered to the floor, plunging me into darkness. I scrambled to my feet and fled, blindly groping my way back to the staircase. I burst out of the kitchen, gasping for air, my mind reeling. I had to get out. I had to warn someone. I ran through the hotel, pounding on doors, shouting, "There's something wrong, something terrible, you have to leave." The other guests stared at me with a mixture of fear and annoyance. The hotel staff appeared, their faces grim. "He is delusional," the manager said, his voice cold. He is disturbing the guests. We must restrain him. They lunged for me. I fought them off, desperate to escape. I ran to the front desk and grabbed Detective Ito's card. I dialed the number, my hands shaking so violently I could barely hold the phone. "Ito-sen," I shouted, "you have to come back. I found it. I found the well. There's something down there, something evil," he sighed. "Mr. Ethan, I warned you. You are clearly unwell. I am sending officers to take you into custody. No, you don't understand. It's real. You have to see it for yourself." I hung up and ran outside into the night. The air was cold and damp, the moon hidden behind a veil of clouds. The ocean roared in the distance. I knew they were coming for me. I had to show Ito the well. He had to see it with his own eyes. I ran back into the hotel, dodging the staff, making my way to the kitchen. Ito was there waiting for me, 2 uniformed officers standing behind him. His face was grim. "Mr. Ethan," he said, his voice stern, "you are under arrest. Please come with us quietly." "No," I shouted. "You have to see this. It's real. Come with me. I'll show you." I grabbed his arm and tried to pull him towards the kitchen. He resisted, his eyes narrowing. "I'm giving you one last chance, Mr. Ethan. Come with us quietly or we will be forced to use force." "There is no time," I yelled. "It's down there. It's waiting." I pulled him towards the kitchen and down the steps, the other officers hesitating. We were in the chamber. I swept my flashlight beam at the wall and over to the well. The well was gone. There was only a flat concrete floor. No well, no hole in the ground, just a regular storage chamber. Ito stared at me. He then grabbed my arm and began to usher me up the stairs and out of the hotel. "He needs help," he yelled to one of the hotel staff. "Make sure this door is locked." I looked back at the chamber one last time. It was just an empty concrete chamber. Later, in my cell that night, I could hear faint echoing scream. The same scream I had heard the night before coming from the next cell. I pounded on the wall, "Someone is in trouble," but no one was listening. I lay awake, screaming myself until morning.